Gazette of the Republic.
Mohamed Beavougi, married with 4 children, was born on the 15th of August 1953 in Poré, Dakar, in Central Guinea. He served as UN Under-Secretary General for the Pan-African Risk Management Mutual in New York before holding other positions with the International Fund for Agricultural Development and the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations in Rome, Italy.
The first feeling is one of honor, and then, very sincerely also, with a lot of emotion, that one can receive such a responsibility at a time of a transition that is crucial for the future of our country. And I am extremely grateful to the President of the CNRD, the President of the Republic, Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya.
In addition to several local languages, the new Prime Minister also speaks French, English, Russian and Italian. Also in him, Colonel Doumbouya chose a man relatively unknown to the general public, far from a political class, decreed for its clientelism and corruption.
From politics, we move to economy as the African Development Bank Group announced on this day a 36-month debarment of Express Automation Limited with effect from the 18th of August 2021. Let's watch.
36 months debarment for Express Automation Limited. For information's sake, it is a limited liability company registered under the laws of the Republic of Kenya. An investigation conducted by the bank's Office of Integrity and Anti-Corruption established that this limited liability company engaged in fraudulent practices during a tender for the technical security upgrade to the bank's Eastern Africa Regional Center. During the debarment period, Express Automation Limited and its affiliates will be ineligible to participate in bank group finance projects. Additionally, the debarment qualifies for a cross-debarment by other multilateral development banks under the Agreement for Mutual Enforcement of Debarment Decisions, including the Asian Development Bank, the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, the Inter-American Development Bank, and the World Bank Group. At the expiry of the debarment period, Express Automation Limited will only be eligible to resume participation in African Development Bank Group finance projects after it implements an integrity compliance program consistent with the bank's guidelines. The technical security upgrade was aimed at upgrading the existing security system in the bank's Eastern Africa Regional Center in Nairobi, Kenya.
Historic moment for Africa when more than 260,000 children under 5 die of malaria each year. The WHO recommends massive deployment of first malaria vaccine in children. The report is given by Mama Batista.
The World Health Organization on Wednesday recommended the massive deployment of the first malaria vaccine in children living in sub-Saharan Africa and in areas at risk. The long-awaited malaria vaccine for children is a breakthrough for science, child health, and the fight against malaria, WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said in a statement. Using this vaccine in addition to existing tools to prevent malaria could save tens of thousands of young lives every year, he added. RTSS is a vaccine that works against a parasite transmitted by mosquitoes. It is the world's deadliest but also the most prevalent pest in Africa. For Africa, where malaria kills more than 260,000 children under the age of 5 each year, the vaccine brings hope as fears of malaria resistance to treatment grows.
We close this news edition with information for France. No heads of states, but young entrepreneurs, artists, athletes. France hosts a summit on Friday in a new format to try the eternal refoundation of its relationship with Africa in a context of crisis with its former colonies. John Stereo for the details.
Some 3,000 participants, including more than 1,000 young people from the continent, are expected on Friday in Montpellier for this meeting between African, French, and diaspora civil societies on economic, cultural, and political issues organized in roundtables. 4 years after the speech of Ouagadougou by French President Emmanuel Macron, it is to listen to the words of African youth and to get out of the obsolete formulas and networks stresses the Élysée Palace, praising the unprecedented format of the event. African heads of state, for the first time in the history of the Africa-France Summit, are excluded. These great masses that punctuate since 1973 the troubled relationship between the continent and the former colonial power. In his report delivered to the French president on Tuesday, Mr. Mbembe, Cameroonian intellectual in charge of preparing the summit, believes in particular that France is too disconnected from the new political and cultural movements and experiments carried by African youth. If the unprecedented format of Montpellier will perhaps allow to dust off the Franco-African relationship, it remains for the philosopher Barry a symbolic defeat for Africa itself. Why is the human, political and economic future of the African continent still being discussed in France? Why don't African governments themselves listen to the concerns of their people? He wonders.
We have come to the end of this news edition, but first, let's have a review of the headlines. The Pandora Papers affair, you know, the new scandal of tax evasion on the British Virgin Islands, which splashes several personalities worldwide and in which the Gabonese head of state is quoted. The spokesman of the presidency of the Gabonese Republic did not procrastinate. According to J.C. Elaikoga, this is an empty file. The details were in this news edition. In France, no heads of states but young entrepreneurs, artists, athletes. France hosts a summit on Friday in a new format to try the eternal refoundation of its relationship with Africa in a context of crisis with its former colonies. Stay tuned on G24 and on our social medias for more info anytime, anywhere. This is the end of this newscast. We are in the October Pink period, month of mobilization against breast cancer. Get tested and get screened, ladies. Goodbye.